Hello everyone, welcome to my video tutorial on Oracle e-business suite. Today we are going to look at one of the Oracle modules, which is Oracle General Ledger, or in short Oracle GL. And in this tutorial we are going to look at some of the concepts and setups which is common in GL module. Let's look at the concepts that we are going to go through today. Pretty much very standard and basic concepts like ecosystem integration, the common concept of 4C, and finally the ledgers will be discussed in today's session. Now in ecosystem, what you can see is how Oracle GL module is connected with the other Oracle modules as well as external systems. So you can see here that all the Oracle modules like Oracle manufacturing projects, HRMS, financials, as well as some external systems like payroll can be integrated into Oracle GL module, and GL can finally produce the financial reports, or it can send the same information to some other business analytics or reporting systems. So this is how the ecosystem works in terms of Oracle GL module. Now look at the subledger integration process of GL, where we would see that the subledger modules like Oracle AP or accounts receivable AR module will create some transactions and accountings. Once the accounting is created in subledgers, those accounting information will be transferred to GL through the GL interface. Now at this stage we can sort of review those information in the interface level, and we can correct information if required, and then we can import those information as journal in Oracle GL module. And once the journals are created in GL, we can post those journals in GL. And once the posting is completed, that sort of gives us the balance of the GL accounts, or of the natural of your company trial balance, those things. So until or unless the posting is happening, the information is not persistent in Oracle GL module. We can look into it this way. So this is pretty much how the subledger modules send information into Oracle GL module. Then let's have a look at a new concept in Oracle R12, which is the 4C. Now you can see that the 4C necessarily means currency, calendar, convention, and chart of account. Now when you say currency, we are basically referring to the capability of using multiple currencies like Australian dollar, US dollar, those currencies, and we can nominate some of these currencies as functional currencies. We can nominate some of these currencies as reporting currencies, and sometimes you will have a separate currency like Thai baht or something else as your transaction currency. So all these currency definitions and conversions between currencies is possible in GL. When it comes to calendar, we are basically referring to the fiscal calendar, which is used for your financial reporting. So it can be similar or separate or different from the calendar year. For example, you can have a fiscal year starting in July and ending in June in one country, whereas in another country you will have a fiscal calendar starting in January and finishing in December. So in Oracle GL, you will be able to define all these calendars and control those calendars. The convention is a new concept in R12 compared to 11i module, 11i version, which necessarily means is that you can define your accounting conventions and sort of present your transaction in different ways in your chart of accounts or in your financial reports. So one particular transaction in Oracle AP can create multiple versions of accounting based on the requirement. So if in your country, if you have a requirement of representing the accounting in one particular way, it can do that, and it can also create a second representation of the same transactions for your group of companies reporting or something like that. So this is also sort of introduced in R12 in a very strong manner. And then the last C that I would like to talk about is the chart of account, which is the heart of your accounting definitions. Here we will define all the accounting segments and all the details of how your accounting is going to be controlled, captured, and reported. Okay, and the last thing in this concept part that we'd like to go through is the ledger, which basically combines the 4 C's. So in a ledger definition, we will have currency, we will have calendar, chart of account, and the accounting conventions. If one of this information is required to be different, we would have to define a separate ledger. So yes, that's where also the concept comes of different types of ledgers. As you can see here is the primary ledger, secondary ledger, and reporting currency ledger. So what it means is that primary ledger is basically your operational ledger, where you would capture all your transactions and reportings. Secondary ledger is where you would capture a separate or a secondary presentation of your accounting, and the reporting currency ledger is where you would capture a separate currency. So as you can see, if one of the things like currency is different, you would need a separate ledger to be defined. Now in regards to that, to this concept, Oracle R12 has also introduced a new thing called ledger sets, where you can combine multiple ledgers into one set, and you can perform certain transactions like closing the period and creating journals across the ledgers from a single point of entry. And this concept can be very much useful or fruitful for a setup where shared service centers are operating. One person from shared services can close periods for multiple companies using this concept. And last thing to mention here is that this ledger concept is basically similar to setup books, but it has replaced the setup books concept and introduced some new concepts to make it much more stronger and globalized. With this sort of introductory concepts, we'd like to go to the next step of our tutorial, which is the setups, and this is where we would do some hands-on and systems transactions and system setups to get more familiarity around Oracle GL module. And we will cover accounting flexible definition, calendar definition, currencies, ledgers, and then we will also cover journal sources and journal categories setup. We will see how the setups are done, and we will see what are the things that is mandatory in these setups. Thank you very much for this session, and very soon we will start the system on hands-on training. Now we are going to look into the basic setups of GL module in system, and the first setup we are going to look into is the accounting flex field setup or your chart of account setup. For this we are going to use the application developer responsibility and then the menu option under flex field key segments. This will take us to the Oracle form where you can look into the details of the chart of account definition or accounting flexible definition. Let's search for the flexible definition. The name of this is accounting flexible. So I'll use the wildcard character to avoid anything to be searched on, and then we'll press Ctrl F11. This will give us the already defined accounting flex field definitions. Let's have a look into this one, which will be used for our training or tutorial purpose, and this is already defined. And if you look at the segments of this flex field by clicking the segments button, you will see all the different segments which will be used in this chart of account definition. For example, you can see business, unit, service, cost center, account, all these separate segments. Now each of these segments has a value set assigned to it, and the value set will have the values for these segments. Now you can look into the value set by clicking this button value set from here. So if you click this button, it will open the value set, and then it will tell us what this value set definition is. For example, it is going to contain characters. The maximum size is 2, and the validation type is independent, which means the values will be entered independently by someone rather than getting it from any database tables or those things. And if you want to see the details of this segment, you can click the open button. It will tell us that this segment is required. Of course, for your information, all the segments in accounting flex field is required. It's mandatory to enter this information. And then we can look into the flex field qualifiers. So you can see that for this particular segment, a balancing segment qualifier has been enabled by clicking this checkbox here. And what it means is that Oracle GL will balance the journals based on this segment value. So if for example in one journal we have 2 balancing segment value, then the journal's debit and credit will have to be balanced for each of the balancing segment values. So this is how we control which is our balancing segment, which is going to be our natural account segment. So natural account segment means the actual accounts, and which is going to be our cost center segment. In a typical environment, you will at least need to have a balancing segment and a natural account segment in your chart of account definition as a minimum setup to be continuing your journaling and transactions. So similarly, if we go into the segment 4, which is known as cost center, you can open it up and go to see what is the qualifier that has been used. You can see that this segment has been defined as a cost center segment. So this is how you can define your own chart of account as per your business requirement. Now that we have seen how a chart of account definition is constructed in Oracle GL or Oracle eBusiness Suite, we are going to create a new one for our training purpose. I am still logged into the system and using the responsibility application developer, as you can see here, and then I am navigating to the key flex field segments window, and then I will search the flex field definition as before, entering the name accounting flex field with the wildcard character. The wildcard is used just for avoiding any situations or any characters like spaces or something in between. And to create a new definition, I have to click the bottom row, and then I can use my own name. For this purpose, I am going to use a name XXH training flex field. I am going to keep the same name in the title field, and then when I press the tab, I will come to the description field and I will put my own description like training accounting flex field. Once I have done that, I have to go and define my segments, clicking the segment buttons. And before that, I can select a separator in the window that will be used for my chart of account string of account combination. So all the segments that I am going to define will be separated by this separator that I can select here. I am going to select a dash, and I am also going to select the option allow dynamic inserts, which will let me or let the system to create the string of account or accounting combination on the fly as required when we will be doing the transactions. So having said that, let's go and create the segments that we need. We have to start from 1 as a number and then name. Let's put a name for our segment. It's business. Window prompt is business, and column is recommended to be starting from segment 1. And we can use the same value set as we have already seen, which is XXH GL business. Yes. And once we do that, we can open the segment. To complete the further details, we can go to the flex field qualifiers. We have to save it before, so let's save it. You can ignore the error message for now, and then we can go and define the flex field qualifier. So for the business segment, we are going to use the balancing segment qualifier. So tick this button checkbox and then press the save button, close the window, come back to the segment definition, define the next segment as a cost center segment. So the same window prompt will be used, and then we are going to use segment 2. Now I am typing it here, but you can always click this small button here and select your segment column. Then similarly you can type in your value set name, or you can always use the system feature or functionalities to help you. We can open the segment definition, and then yes, we have to save the definition first, and then we can define the flex field qualifier as cost center segment, and I'm pressing Ctrl S or the save option or save shortcut. Then we have to define the next segment, number 3, and we can define here natural account, and we can use the segment number 3 for this one, and we can use the same value set as we have already seen. So everything is similar. Now as we speak, please note that this totally depends on your business requirement and how you want to define your chart of account. I am just doing it to show you how it can be done in a system, so that you are comfortable when you will be doing your own business requirements implementation. Now segment 4, I am keeping an option, a sort of reserved segment for future, because once you define your accounting flex field or chart of account, you cannot change it later on. So it's better to keep 1 or 2 more segments as a reserve segment, so that you can expand your chart of account to meet some new business requirement. I'm going to use the same value set, which has nothing but 0. I'm going to save this, and for this I don't have to select any flex field qualifier because it does not apply, or it is not applicable for any reserved segment. So this way I can define my chart of account or accounting flex field definition, which is sort of the heart of your accounting rules and accounting controls in Oracle GL. I can close this window. I have to come back to the main window, and then we must check this checkbox, freeze flex field definition, and press the OK button. Then press the compile button, and it will compile the flex field definition, which will complete our definition, and we can go and start using this segment going forward. You can see that the flex field was compiled successfully. This is required. If some error has happened, you have to correct the error, and until it is successful, you have to repeat your steps. So this completes our flex field definition. Let's look into the next topic, which is the calendars. Now we are going to look into the setup of calendars in Oracle GL module. For this purpose, we have to switch our responsibility from application developer to Oracle General Ledger Super User module. Press the OK button, and it will take us there. Let's go into setups, financials, and calendars. Please note that in each of these steps I am double clicking. And then within the calendars, we have a couple of options like types, accounting, transactions. Types will tell us what are the types of calendar that we can define, and we can create our own types there. Accounting calendars is what is relevant for our financial accounting modules or GL module primarily, and transaction calendar is also something that can be used for inventory and those modules. For our tutorial, accounting calendar is relevant. Before that, let's have a look on the types. So we can list the existing types here, and you can see that there are a couple of types like monthly, month, quarter, week, year, and we can define our own types if we need to. But for this example, we are not going to use our new types. We can use an existing one. So let's clear our entry by clicking the clear record button. We are going to use the monthly calendar or monthly period type for our training purpose. Let's close this window. Go to the accounting calendars. Before defining our own calendar, let's have a look on an existing calendar to clarify our understanding first. In this definition, you can enter a calendar code, you can enter a calendar description, and then you have to enter the calendar periods. So you can enter a prefix of the period, like the first 3 characters of the month, which is pretty much standard and typically or commonly used, and then the type of the period, year, quarter, number of the period within the year, and then the date range, and finally the name will be suggested by Oracle itself. The adjusting checkbox that you can see here is used for notifying or used for identifying a period as an adjusting period. Now let's try to create a calendar of our own. We can put our name as training calendar. As you can see, there is a character restriction, so maybe we can shorten our name like this, and then we can put a proper description, training calendar, and then we can start from January, for example. Enter the period type as monthly. So let's suppose we are going to start from 2015. It will be on the first quarter, January, and this is the first period of our calendar, and then we can enter the date range, as you can see here, 1st of January 2015 to 31st of January 2015, and Oracle is suggesting the period name that you will be able to see in Oracle GL and other modules going forward. The same way we can define the February month or the February period, and it will be on the same quarter, but the number of the period will be different, which is 2, and then we can again define our date ranges. So this way we can define our calendar and all the periods in the calendar, and then we can save this calendar to be used in our accounting or chart of account definition. I will be defining this calendar in the back end, so let's first do that. I have completed the definition of our calendar. So as you can see here, I have defined all the periods, January, February, March, April till December, and then I have also entered an adjusting period, which is the last day of the year, and I have enabled the checkbox adjusting here, and this is the period number 13. So this way I can define my accounting calendar. And now let's have a look into the currencies setup of Oracle GL. Close this window, and then let's go to the currencies. So if you come from the setup, it's setup, currencies, and then the define window. Here I can define all the currencies that I need for my business. Before doing that, let's first have a look what are the currencies that's already been defined in the system. So press the F11 button, which will enable the search mode, and then press Ctrl F11. So as you can see, almost all of the currencies are defined in the system by Oracle by default. So I can look whether USD has been defined. Yes, it is. Whether AUD has been defined. Yes, it is, as you can see. So in this way I can list or search for any currencies, whether this has been defined or not. So practically we don't have to define any currencies, any new currencies unless we have a very specific requirement. So let's close this window and let's go to the rates and see how we can define the rates, right? To define the rates, let's go to the daily rates window, and here I can define the rates from one currency to another currency. Please note that this will be effective if you have some transactions in one currency. For example, you have a transaction in Norwegian kroner or Thai baht, and you want to convert this currency into USD because your functional currency is USD. You are a US company. So here I can come and define my currency definitions. To make it easy to enter the rates, I can enter by date range. So let's click the enter by date range window. Here I can define that from AUD to USD, and I can put the date like January of 15. So 15, I'm going to use a rate type of corporate, and then I'm going to use a rate, so for example 0.80, and by default system will convert the cross currency rate from USD to AUD. Similarly, I can define a rate from AUD to okay, no, it's not working. So for now, let's consider this one rate. This is how we can define the rates, and then we can press the apply button and then OK to close the window. Now, to see the currency rates that has been defined or created by system, we can put the from and to and the date, for example 1st of January 2015. It will give us the rate, and if you want to see the currency rates for all the dates between AUD and USD, I can leave the date from bank and press the Ctrl F11 button, and it will list me all the rates that is defined. As you can see, we have entered by date range, and system has defined separate rates for each of the dates. Okay, so this is how you can define your daily rates and conversion rates between currencies. As you have noticed that we could not define a rate between AUD and British pound or Thai baht for a system error. This is because we have not enabled those currencies. So let's go and enable those currencies. You have to scroll down, scroll to the right to click this checkbox to enable those currencies. So if we go into the Great Britain pound, find the currency, we can enable this currency. Similarly, we can enable Thai baht, and if we do that, then system will let us to define rates between these currencies. Let's do it for completing the session. So we'll go to the rates, enter by date range. So from AUD to Thai baht, we'll define a rate for the whole month. Now your rate will be different each day if you are getting the rate from the bank, or if you have an integration, online integration with the bank, or any global rates provider like Bloomberg. But here for this training purpose, we are just using a dummy rate, you can say. So let's use 32, and again system is calculating the cross rate, and I can also define the rate between Australian dollar and Great Britain pound. Now you can see that system is allowing us to define those rates. This is because we have enabled those currencies. So I'm pressing here Shift 5 to just copy the value from the above row, and then same here. Now on the rate, I will define 0.5 just for the sake of sample, and then you can press the apply button, and in the backend system will create the rates for each of those dates and each of those combination of from and to currency. So this way I can define as many currency rates or as many conversion rates as required for my business.